Hi, this is Dirt Farmer Maggie from Dirt Farmer J on YouTube. You know, fall is officially here in the Mountain West. We had single-digit temperatures this week and even snow in our backyard. So it's time for those comfort foods that we all look forward to when it's winter. And one of our favorites is marinara. I'm going to show you how we make it. Well, obviously the main ingredient in marinara is tomatoes. And it takes quite a bit of preparation time to get these tomatoes ready to get to the point that we're going to start making the marinara sauce. So we started on these yesterday, and let me show you what we did. First thing you want to do is set your oven to 400 degrees. I'm going to bake these tomatoes in a nice deep glass pan, which I have put some olive oil in, as you can see in there, just a little bit under the bottom to have under the bottom of the tomatoes. And when you're cutting your tomatoes, you have this end, and then you have the end where the stem came out. The end where the stem came out needs to be flat because you're going to stand it up on that end in the pan. And then this end, you just want to cut an X, just like that, because what's going to happen is as they bake, these little tips are going to lift up and give you a cool little thing to hold on to peel those peels off. So we're going to put them in the pan and then just continue through all the tomatoes, cutting off flat end and making an X. Now this tomato here, you can see it has a scar on it from just growing. You don't need to throw it away. After you've squared off the end, you can just take your knife, and I love using a serrated knife like this because it's super sharp and you can just get the skin. And I'm just going to cut that scar right off, and then you can still go ahead and make your X and use that tomato. If you were making dinner for, say, a couple of friends that are coming over, this batch of marinara will probably feed about 4 or 5 people. And for that much marinara, you'll need to have about 20 to 25 Roma tomatoes. Okay, so you can see we have all the tomatoes cut, placed in the pan. Make sure and give yourself a little room around the tomatoes. They will roast better that way than having them all crammed in there. And our chickens are gonna love these cutoffs when we take them out to feed them in just a little while. You can see now that the oven has come up to 400 degrees. So the tomatoes are ready to go in. I'm gonna go ahead and put them in. And I'm gonna set my timer for 1 hour. Okay, you can see that the timer has gone off. And so I'm gonna go ahead and turn my oven off. And let's see what we've got here. Oh, these turned out great. Look at that. Nice and roasty. And I'm going to let these cool before I start to peel them, but you can see right here on this one how the peel is starting to just slide right off. And it's going to do that for all of them. They're going to slide right off, and you're going to be able to peel them really easily. So last night, after the tomatoes got cool enough for me to touch, I peeled all the skins off of them and refrigerated them overnight in this bowl. And before starting filming today, I went ahead and cut them into smaller pieces, so we'll have smaller pieces to start our marinara with. The first thing that we're going to do is saute onions and garlic together. Now this is about 2 onions chopped into pieces and about 8 to 10 cloves of garlic. I might add that these are onions and garlic that we grew ourselves this year. I'm going to stir these around with some olive oil until they get nice and soft and brown. Well, we've got our onions and garlic sauteed down to they're nice and soft. So we're going to go ahead and add the other ingredients. I'm going to put the tomatoes in. And those big chunks will soften up and just sort of disintegrate as we cook and simmer down. I like to add chicken broth to my spaghetti sauce, my marinara. I'm not going to add all of this now, but I'm going to keep it in reserve and add it a little at a time. You're going to want to put in some salt. You can always add more salt, but you can't remove it, so be careful with how much you use. Some black pepper. And this is basil that we grew last year and dried. Be generous with the basil, it sort of cooks away. Got a little bit of oregano. And really, marinara is just doing it till it tastes the way you want it to taste. So there isn't a real set recipe for me. I do it this way, I start it this way all the time, but sometimes I'll add other ingredients after I'm tasting it, and just because I think it could taste better if it had that in it. I love to add some red wine. The red wine, all the alcohol is going to evaporate out, but it's going to keep that deep red color and the sweetness from the red wine. So I will come back from time to time as this is simmering and be adding more ingredients, and the same ingredients I've added, but just a little more of this or a little more of that. The last thing I'm going to pop in here before I turn it down to simmer is a few bay leaves. Well, it's been about 3 hours or so, and we've left this simmering covered part of the time. I've been stirring it part of the time. Taste testing is the only way to really know what you need to add, or if you need to add anything. So I've been testing as I went along. A couple of different times I've sprinkled in some sugar. Tomatoes, as you know, are pretty tart, so sometimes a little bit of sugar will really take that tartness down. I did add a little bit of chicken bouillon powder, and I believe that's all I added while you guys were not with me on camera. I might have put a little bit more wine in there too, but you know, you can never have too much wine, right? As a matter of fact, I'm gonna have a glass when we're done with this. So I think we've got a great consistency here. One thing that I did do is I did use my potato masher and just really lightly just went up and down to kind of pulverize those cooked tomatoes that were nice and soft, but won't quite get pulverized enough with just a spoon. You could also slip an immersion blender in there and just give it just a little bit of blending. You want to leave, at least I do, I like the consistency of feeling like I'm chewing something. I don't want it to just be liquidy. So I like the fact that you can still see the onions in there. You can still see chunks of tomato. But if you could smell this right now, you would know that this is a great marinara. It smells wonderful, it tastes wonderful, and I'm sure Dirt Farmer Jay is going to be a happy camper when we have it for dinner. So if you found this video to be helpful, would you like it? And also, would you subscribe to our channel so that we can keep making great videos with Maggie's Kitchen, product reviews, workshop stuff, and home improvement ideas. And until next time, this is Dirt Farmer Maggie. See ya.